wonder where you found time for.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this very special edition of Rotor Talk Live. How is everyone doing this evening? Marcus, how are you on this last day of the year?
You know what? Doing just fine, Bill. Yeah, enjoying the holidays with family, and we're just taking it easy today. We're not going to do it. Get too. In fact, Sarah and I are going to be right here at home.
Well, yeah, that's that's been our MO for a long time. Has been on the home front. That's for sure. I mean, it's just for us, it's been the way to go. I mean, I absolutely no qualms and quarrels about that.
Yeah.
Got a very special show tonight, and originally we were going to take the week off, and kind of like Marcus and Ron last night on ZinoNation, they decided to go ahead and do a show, and we're gonna dedicate the show to the FAA Remote ID Proposal. I think it's so significant, ultra significant, that we spend some time on this tonight. I think it's really important. We can't underestimate this at all. What we're gonna do tonight, just to let everybody know, is I'm gonna let Marcus go through. Now, Marcus has done some homework, okay, as far as the proposal is concerned. I'm gonna highlight some significant portions of this because I think it's important for everybody to know what this is, okay, and the language behind this. There's a link in the description to check out the actual proposal. It's 319 pages. Now, a lot of us have went through it. I know Marcus has gone through it really well. So, Marcus, let's just go ahead and jump right in here.
Okay. Yeah. Very good, Bill. So, I think when they talk about the NPRM, that is an acronym for the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, and that's the 60 days that we have to give the FAA feedback on these rules. So I think it's important that we all do that. I will also say that I'm gonna wait a little bit before I write in. We got 60 days to do it. I'm gonna be at CES next week, and I want to see if I hear anything new while I'm there and so forth. I don't think there's any big rush in sending them a letter right away, but we all should do that. It's very important to our hobby. So then if we want to go through the different sections or categories of rulemaking, I need to, Bill, I'm sorry here. I evidently had closed that out, so I need to bring it up on my computer.
Go ahead. No,
I want to make sure I speak correctly.
Just want to go ahead, and while Marcus is looking for that, I just want to go ahead and greet a few of you in here. Steve Dawson, Bills Fans 2012, Saigon Drone Fly, Timothy Huxell, Arizona Drone Dude, Steve Mack, Don Carson are here. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Now, one of the things, with all of this is, this is something I want to, Marcus has taught the comment period, actually, I believe open today, if I'm not mistaken. And, we'll get a link, and there'll be a link, at least in a pinned comment down there, for you guys to go ahead and do that. Now, one of the things, and I was going to say this near the end, but I think it's important enough. When you leave a comment, okay, don't fly off the handle, be articulate, be well-spoken when you do this, reference some of the rules. Don't just say, I don't like it because I won't be able to fly my drone. That's not going to hold some weight. Okay.
Yeah. Or if you fire off some kind of vitriol, it will just get ignored.
Yeah, it'll get ignored. And by the way, your name will be down there, so they'll know who did this. So,
Hey, Bill, so I'm ready. Do you want me to put this chart up on the screen?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay, I'm clicking share. And right now. Tell me when you got it.
Got it.
Okay, so this little graphic was in the email that the FAA sent out to each and every one of us. And it does a really good job of explaining what the three categories of remote identification are and how that's going to affect us. And I also want to point out that this is for drones that are 250 grams or above in weight, or more than 0.55 pounds. So if you're under that, like the Mavic Mini that Bill's got next to him there, It's it does, none of this applies to that. So you would still be able to fly that just like you do today. Now, they did say, if you read through that whole 319-page document, they did say that that is something that there are people that are considering that it should apply to all drones, regardless of weight. So that could change, which is not good for us. But let's look at these three categories. So the standard remote identification drone, what that's going to do is your drone will communicate to law enforcement through the FAA UAS data exchange, and to both law enforcement and the general public, where you're flying, where your drone is at in space, altitude-wise, distance-wise, etc., and where the controller is, where the base station is, and which is you, obviously, flying your drone. So you can see the line there where it goes from the drone pilot to the internet. So that is via your base station or your remote control, and you will have to have a cell connection to the internet or some connection to the internet. So I guess if you were close enough to Wi-Fi, you could do that, but we're obviously out in the field, so it's going to be via your mobile device, or who knows if the drone manufacturers might come up with something that has a cell connection. And of course, I'm sure you'd have to buy some kind of data plan for that. And then that goes to a remote ID UAS service supplier. And that is something that we as hobbyists will have to subscribe to. We will have to pay money for the government and the public to track our drones. You cannot fly if you don't do that. So not only is your remote talking via cellular, via the internet, your drone itself has a transmitter on it that transmits all of that same information to your remote ID UAS service supplier that then goes to the FAA data exchange, that goes to law enforcement and the general public. So it's going to be costly. It's going to be new technology as far as the drones go. And if I'm thinking about this, and this is just my opinion, obviously your drone, if it's going to be transmitting radio information or information, that takes battery power, takes processing power. So those are all things that are going to affect the performance of our drones, and it's also going to affect the cost of our drones. Currently, there's nothing out there, and this is all, nobody even knows exactly what this technology is yet. So, obviously the drones that we're flying today won't be compliant with this one. They do in the rule, they talk about retrofitting. How do we know what that means yet? I suppose it might be possible in some situations, particularly with larger commercial drones. If you're talking about somebody with a matrice or something like that, I'm sure those could be retrofitted. I seriously doubt that our hobby drones will have any retrofit capability. We'll just be buying new drones. The upside, there is a positive to this particular category, and they even say it in the rule that they hope to be able to allow beyond visual line of sight flying. So you could fly large distances with this. And if you read between the lines here, really that is for commercial applications, right? I mean, there's some situations where we as hobbyists want to fly beyond visual line of sight, but mostly it's a commercial thing. So the middle category, the limited remote identification drone. And that is going to be basically all of our drones that we have today, our photo drones that we have today. So the drone, you're communicating all that same information that you are in column 1 there, but it's done via the internet, via your controller, via your mobile device. So your mobile device is hooked to the controller. So you can imagine that this would just be a combination of a firmware update and an app update for whatever drone you happen to be flying. they could then just transmit this through cellular data to your remote ID service supplier, to the general public, to law enforcement. Now, the rub on this one is that it confines you to a 400-foot bubble, 400 feet distant, 400 feet up. And you do have to pay that same subscription service. So another problem with this is, say, I often am going out remotely to fly my drone. So I go out in the Snake River Canyon. I can tell you there's no cell service out there. Your drone will not take off. It will not take off. So you won't, essentially, any place where you're out of cell range, you're not going to be able to fly your drone. And by the way, that also applies to that first category too, although there's a couple of caveats there. So say you were in that first category and you were out of cell range, but if your drone could still communicate to the servers, you could still take off and fly, even though your controller didn't. But also, like the middle category, if neither the drone nor the base station can communicate either wirelessly with the drone or through the internet with the base station, the drone will not take off. And if you think that through, if you're out remote someplace, we know that your drone is not going to have a 50-mile transmitter on it. It's just not. It's a drone. So there's going to be places you're just not going to be able to fly, period, out in the wilderness. And if I think about that, like the new Skydio that I just bought will be in that middle category there. A lot of people that are action sports people, they're out in the woods, right? They're out on their motorcycle, their ATV, their snowmobile, their mountain bike, whatever. They're out of cell range. Sorry, the drone won't even take off. It's not allowed to even take off. So that's those top two categories that most interest us. The third category is what they call a FRIA, and that's a recognized identification area that you can fly without any kind of remote ID. So that is more like what you would think of as an RC field, right? And you're limited to line of sight. And, I can imagine that if you're an FPV drone flyer or something that, you want to fly through an obstacle course or something, that might be something that you do. But for the vast majority of us, I suspect that's unacceptable. I've got to tell you, I like these camera drones. I'm not interested in taking, pictures of the same piece of meadow over and over again. And by the way, to set up one of these zones, there's a whole big long application process that you have to go through, and it has to be part of an organization. So if you're not a part of an organization, you'd have to create one. So there's way more to that than meets the eye. But that is kind of the basis of those three categories, Bill.
Okay, well, I was just looking, and I posted a link in the chat, and that link is the Federal Register, and it does have right at the top, this document has a comment period that ends in 62 days on March 2nd, 2020, and there's a green button near the top of it where you can submit a formal comment. Now, I'm going to go ahead, real quick, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and just put that up on the screen so everybody can take a look at this here and see. Let's see right here. Here's where you would go ahead and submit a comment on this. Now, you can also click this link here. 10 people have already left comments on this. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows where to go. Again, it's basically the link that we had the other day, because this is now an actual proposal. It's a published document. It was unpublished before. Just kind of make sure that we're all kind of like clear on that. So Marcus, okay, you gave us a lot of food for thought here on this. All right. Now, one of the things that I wanted to touch base on was, our friend here, the Mavic Mini. All right. 249 grams. It's now all of a sudden it's gone down, the 249 grams on the list for here in the United States was kind of like down here. Now it's up here. It's all the way up at the top. Okay. Now, the rule states, and tell me if I'm wrong here, the rule states, though, that there were a number of people, or the proposal states there were a number of people who wanted to make sure all drones, didn't matter if it was the Mavic Mini or the Golden Egg, were included in this. Am I right?
That's correct. They state that. If you read that document, and I don't remember exactly where it is, and they did say that, hey, there are some that think it should apply to all drones. And so that could change. I mean, it could change that quick.
Okay. You know, one of the things that I can't emphasize enough, and I really want to try to just drive this point home here, is we need to present a united front to the FAA. Okay. And I've already scattered through some of the comments. I mean, some of them, most of them were articulate, but they were real general. One, it's infringing my rights. I'm a Part 107 pilot, and I think you need to rewrite this rule. You know, okay, you know, you need to expand upon that, okay? Because I look, the comments section, you can put in an awful lot in there. So when you do this, this is something I think you should type up, go through, look at, you know, spell check, because I can tell you, you know, things like, you know, when you're growing up, you know, people were telling you English and grammar and punctuation and things like that. It matters in this case. This is something that's that important. And I know, I heard Marcus last night on ZinoNation was talking about, you know, getting his elected representatives engaged, which is absolutely the right idea. Okay. Both your U.S. senators. Okay. You have, every state has 2 U.S. senators, your congressmen. Okay. At the minimum, you know, write them, you know, send them an email, call their office. I also found out calling their office is very effective, because I've done that several times and I've gotten my voice heard with that. So, and I mean, you know, the numbers are out there. They're easy to find. They're not that hard. So where your district is. One of the things, you know, I know you guys talked about last night is, you know, the time period for this. Okay. Why don't you expand upon that, Marcus?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a 60-day period of comment here that we can comment on the rule, and I presume that really literally any time after that they could publish the rule, and then it becomes a regulation that we have to follow. But they do say in there that they're giving the manufacturers 2 years to come up with compliant products, and then they're adding another year on top of that for we as individuals to have to comply to those regulations. So that's a 3-year window. But the other thing about that is they also state that there are people in there, or no, excuse me, I read this in a separate article. Let me backtrack a little bit. There was an article, a CNN article that Ron Brown posted, that said that the FAA said that there were people that were complaining that that was too long and they wanted to compress that time frame. And you know, they can if they want to. They're just giving us regulations, so they can do whatever they want. Another, I think, important thing to consider there is, between now and whenever we know what this rule is, are you going to go out and spend $1,500 on a drone? I can tell you I'm not, because I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with it, and in a few years. You know, I might spend $400 on a drone like that Zino 2 or something, because that's not as big of an investment, and if whatever happens, happens. But to spend a lot of money, you know, Bill and I were just talking about the Evo 2 before, and potentially it could be a couple $1,000. I'm not spending a couple $1,000 on a drone until I know what this is going to be.
Oh yeah, well, you know, and a couple of things here, and I wanted to bring this up, and I brought this up in the comments during your show last night, and I think it was pretty well received. Was this technology, and I know John of Drones brought this up as well too. Is, you know, this technology, you know, let me backtrack just a second here. You know, I've been in IT for 30 years, and we have a department in the IT for the company that I work for. It's called architecture. Okay. Now it's not, it is what it implies, but it's building IT systems. Okay. And you build, when they do these things, okay, they know the constraints of these systems. They also know the equipment that's available for this, okay? A lot of this technology that they're talking about hasn't even been developed yet, okay? And I think, John and Drones brought
Right.
that up. That is just, that's an extremely valid point, because let's just call it like it is. Is this going to work? Okay. Somebody came up with this idea, but is it going to work? Are we going to find out, oh, there's too many, cell phone signals are jamming, or it's not getting pinged back to the internet, or it's busy. There's too much data flow here. The server crashes, all this kind of stuff. This hasn't even been, the equipment hasn't even been created yet, let alone go through and do some beta testing on this. So I think, and this is just my opinion, Marcus, I think it's going to take a lot more than 3 years to get this implemented.
It could be, because think about that. You need a service provider. So we're going to, as individuals, subscribe to a service provider. Who and what is that going to be? Are they even, has anybody even thought about that yet? Hey, will it be part of our Amazon Prime membership? How about that?
Hey, yeah.
So, but secondly, the technology that's going to be on the drone is the one that I'm questioning. Hey, the internet's there. We know our controller can talk to the internet via cell service, right? But when they're talking about a transmitter on the drone, gosh, anybody that knows anything about radio knows it takes a fair amount of power to transmit a radio signal very far. Short range, it's not so bad, and digital is easier, but it's going to have to be, like I said, my concern is I'm 25 miles out in the Snake River Canyon. I don't think there's any radio signals that are getting out of there, and then my drone won't even take off. So that's a bummer. So what is that technology? How are they going to standardize it? Right, it's going to have to be standardized. So there's just still a ton of question marks that they're going to have to figure out. So you're right, it could take longer than that.
Well, the other thing is, and I know you brought this up last night, was ADS-B. Now, one of the things, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, as of tomorrow, every private aircraft, all the Cessnas and Pipers and, so forth, all right, all the non-commercial aircraft have to have ADS-B when they take off January 1st, 2020. It's mandatory, okay? Or you're going to face like some real serious fines from the FAA. And we all know what ADS-B is, okay? It means that these private aircraft will now be visible to commercial aircraft and vice versa, okay? It'll be a two-way street. So it's going to help the whole air traffic control system, which is a good thing, okay? Now, if you remember, and I know Marcus knows about this, DJI was said as of January 1st, every drone that they sell will have AirSense installed on it, which really is ADS-B. And if you've taken a look at some of this, now, I think Ken Dono did it on one of his videos when he had the Mavic 2 Enterprise. It has that on there and it shows that. And it's just, now it only showed commercial because at the time, private aircraft wasn't on there. I think that's an incredible thing. For me, for all of this, and this is my personal opinion on all this, okay? If they had a system in place, to do this ADS-B on our drones, all right, that and then that information is going to get back, all right? That's not, it's not, depending upon the communication protocols, that information, it has to ping. Your location is out there, okay? It has to be visible, okay? So people know where your drone is, all right? And, I think some type of a system based upon ADS-B is the way to go. It's much simpler, it's less complex, and it's not going to, you're not talking about paying service providers or all this kind of stuff.
So Bill, I can speak to that. So the rule talks about ADS-B.
Okay.
Specifically excludes ADS-B on drones. They don't want it. What they're saying is they're okay with an ADS-B receiver on your drone, but they don't want a transmitter because what they're saying is it'll overwhelm the system. So this rule talks about ADS-B extensively and specifically excludes it for drones.
Wow. Okay. That's just, I'm, the more we get into this, the more it's like, okay, now I want to maybe, I don't know, ADSB out is not allowed. Okay. All right, Mark. And Lon posted it too. The
Yeah. Hey,
DJI
John.
system.
So did you see what John of Drone said? That's a good point too.
Yeah. What is your phone CPU speed? How can it carry a cellular link as well as maintain control via your app plus FPV, et cetera, et cetera?
That is so right on the
John of
money.
Drones. That was
Yeah,
spot
yeah,
on.
yeah.
That really was. Well, okay, let's, we'll continue the discussion here. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up was, all right, people are conjecturing things. Okay, like, oh, I've heard everything from it's George Orwell, 1984, to we're going through McCarthyism, in the 2000 now the 2020s, and the big brother is watching and peeking over your head and wanting to know everything. It's just, I've heard so many and some of the more plausible ones are like not only Amazon and UPS, but other companies, commercially, for those that inspect, let's say pipeline, natural gas inspections, those who do cell towers, things like that, they're considered commercial applications and they would be exempt from this as well. I have a question for you, Marcus, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. Okay. Let's say I'm a Part 107 pilot. All right. And let's say I have a Matrice, the 300 series. All right. And my job is specifically, all I do is I inspect natural gas lines and I inspect cell phone towers. Okay. I'm exempt from this. Is that correct?
No, that's
No.
not true. And commercial is not exempt. In
Okay.
fact, this is designed. I think what you're saying is correct, but except for the fact it's designed for commercial, and the commercial people are who are interested in it because they want that beyond visual line of sight, right? So that's one of the reasons for it, and they can pay for all that stuff. I mean, so it's no big deal to them. It's the hobbyists that create the problem. But the other point that you made earlier, Bill, that I'd like to speak to is, it's one thing for law enforcement to know where I'm flying my drone and so forth. And I'm not happy about that necessarily, because if I'm not doing anything wrong, why do they need to know where I'm flying or what I'm doing? But I could probably live with that in a sense. The problem I have is when they're saying that the general public can look at it. Why does anybody need to know when and where I fly my drone? I don't, it makes no sense to me. And what I'm saying is, where else in your life would you accept that kind of scrutiny? I used an example last night of, you're a mountain biker. I don't know, mountain bikes, people get hurt on them all the time. The analogy for me would be, hey, if all of a sudden there was a rule that they wanted to track your mountain bike when you took it out of your garage, where you were riding at, where it would be absurd, and nobody would stand for that. They wouldn't accept it. Why is it any different with these drones who, as we all know, haven't hurt anybody? The only proven case that I know of where a drone has hit an aircraft is that one in New York, that Phantom 4 that hit the military Black Hawk. All the other one, that recent one in California with the news helicopter, they didn't know. They're all speculating it was a drone. And trust me, if it had been a drone that hit that helicopter, there would have been some plastic pieces or something in that hole in that tailpiece that you saw, and there was none. So I don't know. Maybe it was a drone, but they certainly can't prove it. And on and on, all the stuff at Gatwick. And by the way, they talk about all this in the rule. That's how they're justifying the rule. If you read that 319 pages, you'll come to that part where they talk about, and they talk about Gatwick. They talk about that airline pilot in New Jersey that was at, I can't remember how many feet up in the air, flying 350 miles an hour, and said he saw a drone. So all of that stuff is all just, nobody has a picture of anything, but that's what they're basing this rule on. And those are the kind of points that I think are worth bringing it up. Why it's a solution looking for a problem. I don't know of a single situation where a drone has heard anybody yet, or other than maybe something fell on somebody someplace. I don't know. I'd be interested in the chat if anybody else knows about that.
Okay, now Lon is saying that I believe it gives your FAA number, as far as he can tell. So, not necessarily your personal identification. Now, I want to go to your point that you raised about law enforcement. While, I think I think it's okay. I don't personally, I don't have a problem. If they want to know that I flew out over my lake the other day, if they want to know that I went down off of one of the roads here behind the church at the soccer field to fly there, that's fine. I see. I don't care about that. Okay. Now, where it comes into play, and I think you made a valid point, is that this information is available to the general public. Now, Lon is saying, it's just your FAA number. Okay. Now, currently there's no way, I don't know of a way, if you punch in the number, that it's going to tell you a name and address, that it's going to come up with that. But go ahead.
Well, so his analogy is with your license number on your car. Yeah, anybody can look at the license number on my car, but they can't put that into a database and tell exactly where I started from, stopped from, where I drove. And that's what this is gonna, if I understand this rule correctly, that's what it tells them. All that data, how high you flew, where your control station was, is all going to be there. So yeah, I'm okay with putting my FAA number on the side of the drone. Yeah, but there's no transmitter in my car telling law enforcement where I'm driving. It's not.
Okay, now here's something that I don't think you guys brought up, and I wanted to bring this up. All right, let's say the system's in place. Let's just let's go. We're 3 or 4 years down the road. The system is in place and it's working. All right. Now you go ahead and you sell your drone. All right. However, eBay, PayPal, whatever, you sell your drone. All right. And the new owner registers that drone. But let's go ahead and say, for some example, let's say the new owner is nefarious and he doesn't register the drone and he uses it to commit an illegal act. Let's say, and I'll, for example, let's say he flies over a prison and he drops drugs into a prison. Okay. Now, how does something like that work, in all this kind of a scenario? Okay. Is that going to come back to you because he hasn't registered the drone? Is there a way to unregister the drone once you've registered it? I mean, I'm throwing something out there that I thought about after the show last night. What are your thoughts, Marcus, on something like that?
Yeah, I haven't even thought about that implication, but you're right. It's huge. I mean, so it's the same reason when you sell your car, I would send that little thing at the bottom of the title into the DMV notifying them that I sold it, right? And then that's my proof that it's out of my hands. So yeah, you would definitely want something like that to be in place. Yeah,
there needs to be a mechanism in place.
Point.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's just like because I know, for example, okay, let's just take this for example, okay, smartphones, okay. Now I've sold them like crazy on eBay, and they have what's called the IMEI number on here, okay, and if it's been stolen, that IMEI number is invalid and you can't work this, okay. So, maybe that's something that'll be incorporated into this, who knows, as far as that's concerned. Now, I got to compliment people in the chat. They're really bringing up a lot of valid points here. Okay. Now, one of the things, and one of the people that I follow on Twitter is Brendan Schulman. Okay. And Brendan is the VP of Legal Affairs for DJI. All right. And, I actually had a little bit of a chat with him online, and he said he's digesting all of this information because he really hasn't had a chance to really, take this all in. I'm real interested to think, what DJIs or let's just say at large, what drone manufacturers think of something like this, because, it's going to cause them to have to go back to the drawing board. Because, let's say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus, part of the document says that they need to make these systems that are installed in the drones tamper-proof. Am I right?
Yeah, that was a huge part of it. I'm glad you brought that up. And also, what does it do to small manufacturers like Autel that we're all rooting for, right? We all want to see a good
Oh yeah.
domestic drone supplier, and Skydio for that matter.
Yeah.
Was this going to make them, put them out of business? And then maybe companies like DJI are all for it because they're the only one left standing. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just,
No, I
I
know.
don't know the facts. I'm just,
No, I know exactly what you're saying. And, for example, putting in, whatever it's going to take hardware wise to do this. Okay. Let's say DJI's come out, and I'm just going to go hypothetically here, like 4 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and the Mavic 4 is coming out just for grins and giggles. Okay. Now let's say they've gotten a design all ready to go. And then somebody says, well, you know what? We got to get that module in there, and there's nowhere to put it where the electronics are. And it
or
needs
the power to power it, or the
Or the-
CPU to
Mhm.
manage the data. Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is just, it's not just being able to slap another module on top of a board. Okay. You have to, everything that Marcus said, you have to take into consideration because, the power consumption on this, the CPU consumption on this,
The memory.
memory.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And also too,
The weight.
the weight. Well, how all the apps are going to have to be reworked. Okay. I mean, from the ground up, every drone's app is going to have to be reworked from the bottom up with something like this.
So I just thought of one more point, Bill. So tons of engineering. So if the drone manufacturers go to all that trouble to do that, and now this is the US only right now. Let me tell you, if the US does it, Canadians can still do this. I bet you Canada will follow. I bet you Europe will follow, because once that technology is there, they'll go, hey, okay. And
Well, that's a good point, Marcus, because, I know a lot of people think that, I won't call it a money grab, but this is being driven by business. Okay. And that this is the whole reason for something like this. I'm
not against that. I'm not against helping commerce in our country work better.
Absolutely.
But not at the expense of running over the hobbyists.
Yeah, and that's the valid point right there. And I think if we can go ahead and articulate that in these comments, okay, I'm all for commerce. I'm all for I would be thrilled to get, let's say, I'd be thrilled to get my DJI Mavic 3 dropped off to me by a drone. Okay, how cool would that be? Okay,
yeah,
or to get my drone accessories dropped off by a drone. I have no problem with something like that. And you know what else, Marcus? I really, when it comes down to it, I have no problem with law enforcement being able to have access to this information because let's say there's a terrorist and he's planning something, okay, and he wants to use a Phantom 4 or a Phantom 5 or whatever, okay, to be able to step in, to be able to intercept something like this, okay, I'm all for that.
I'd be okay with it under reasonable suspicion. In other words, if something happened and then they want to look at all those records in that area,
yeah,
just to see every place I ever flew my drone, I don't know. I mean, that's but it wouldn't be it wouldn't just end it for me if that was the case. I would accept it. The general public is the one that just slays me.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's like, okay, also to think about this. All right, what is the lifespan of a drone? All right, let's say, okay, let's look at like Phantom 3s, for example. Okay, now a lot of people still fly Phantom 3s, and a lot of people still have, the big knock against a lot of the Phantom 3s were the flyaways. They had issues with that, but it's reaching what I'll call an end of life cycle. Okay, because batteries are probably not being made by DJI for this. Probably have to go to third party to get batteries on this. And, as time goes on, those batteries aren't going to be available anymore. So it does reach an end of life. All right. So, let's just say the lifespan right now of a drone, let's for argument's sake, 3 years. All right. If you're using it and using the batteries and everything, and before the manufacturer moves on, okay, to build new drones. All right. So at this point that we're talking about, most of us in 3 to 4 years time, all right, I'll venture to say this. most of us, and especially the hobbyists, we want the latest, the greatest, the best, all the bells and whistles. We want the zoom. We want the follow me. We want the obstacle avoidance. We want, everything, all the bells and whistles. Okay. So in 3 to 4 years time, we're going to go out and we're going to get that technology because, we're hobbyists and we love it. And this is what we do. And it's going to have this on here. So it won't be, there won't be like I'll refer to this as weeping and gnashing of teeth because, oh, my Mavic 2 Pro, it's going to be 3 to 4 years. Is your Mavic 2 Pro going to be relevant? Probably about as relevant as a Phantom 3 is right now. Okay. Because the technology will advance to the point that you're going to have, just incredible video that you're going to take off this and just, mind-blowing obstacle avoidance in everything. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely understand what you're saying. Yeah. Yep.
So, I'm going to read through some of the comments. DeMarco points out there was an assassination attempt on a Venezuelan president a few years ago. The perps used large drones with explosives attached to them and was caught on camera.
Yeah, that was about a year ago. I do remember that as well.
Yeah,
that's no doubt. And in fact, in Syria right now, the Russians are working on all kinds of GPS jamming technology because they've had bases attacked by combatants using consumer drones that are going in there.
Well,
but that's in a war zone,
Yeah.
and that's in Venezuela, which you could almost consider a war zone. So
yeah. Gail Orenstein brought up the fact that when she was in one of the war-torn countries, I don't know which one, they confiscated her Phantom 4 because that, I hate to say it, that's the terrorist choice for being able to deliver it because of the way the platform is, the way the legs are on it, and being able to deliver, bad stuff with all of that.
Nefarious things.
Nefarious, yeah, that's nefarious things. Timothy Huxall, I could see Amazon or UPS being behind this safety issue for them to be able to see where other drones are when they're doing deliveries. Absolutely, Timothy. I agree.
I'm not against that. I'm okay with them being worried about that, and I'm okay with there being regulations to help avoid that. But I kind of put most of that responsibility on them. But anyway.
Oh yeah, and I agree. Now, just as a side note, okay. Now they have limited capabilities for actually, Amazon has been working on this for years. All right. The technology is not perfected yet. And I know one of the times we had Rick Smith on and we talked about this and he said, there's still several years out from being able to do something like this. Now, we've seen some of these drones from Google's Alphabet division, I think is what it is, and they're really more, I'm going to call them almost, short takeoff and landing, vertical takeoff and landing kind of things. Where it hovers over the place and it drops something down and via a little box, and they've started deliveries like in Virginia, but it's a real limited kind of basis. Okay. It's real limited. And, the pilot, whoever that pilot is, doesn't apparently, I guess this is all programmed. Okay. These drones are programmed. There's no FPV view on these drones, which I think's, crazy. I don't know how that works, but they're going through this now. But I think the point in all this is I think we're at least a good 3 or 4 years out. I know they said 2, but I think we're at least 3 or 4 years out before we begin to see this being implemented, Marcus.
Yeah, you make some great points, and that very well may be. But to your point, like I said, between now and then, I'm still not going to spend a bunch of money on a drone that I am worried about being irrelevant in a year, in 3 years or whatever. Will I spend $400 on a Zino 2? Heck yes. But much more than that. Let me say this, Bill. If we move forward and we know more about the rule and as far as what can be retrofitted and what can happen with it, what the technology actually is, then we could better make those decisions. But as it stands right now, I don't think we can reasonably make those kind of decisions on, hey, I'm going to buy the new Evo 2 or Mavic 3 or whatever and spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that's going to hurt right now in the short term. It's going to hurt drone sales. All right. Especially from DJI, from Autel,
The high end stuff.
The high end stuff, Skydio too, the ones that are, looking like at about 1,000 and under. Okay. These guys, they're going to continue to fly off the shelves. Okay. Because of this weight rule, which I think is incredible. All right.
So glad I own that drone.
Oh my gosh.
So happy I have that drone.
Guys, I'm telling you, now's the time to get one of these, okay? With all this talk here. But I kind of want to wrap this up, and then we're going to do some, kind of like end of your thoughts here. Marcus, let's end this segment here talking about, about this, kind of like let's, wrap
it up. You got it. So here's what I'm going to say is I would encourage everybody to download the PDF. It's 319 pages, but you'd be amazed how quickly you can pick the important things out of that 319 pages. If you look on page 98, there's a chart that tells you what you need to take off in the various categories. That I found that very interesting. Starting on page 107, they have a bunch of scenarios of how the rule affects drones and people in different scenarios. And then further in, there was a whole section that was really fascinating on law enforcement. And they had scenarios in which law enforcement would look at a drone. And so let me talk about one of those for just a second, because I think it's important, Bill. There was one situation where they were talking about a sheriff, and he's at an event, a sporting event, and he sees a drone flying around. He can look at an app on his phone. He can identify the drone. He can identify where the controller is at, and he can walk over there and then intervene. Those are situations that, hey, I want law enforcement to intervene in a situation like that. That's a good thing. But there's a lot of really good information in there, and it kind of also they also talk about why they want to implement the rule. They talk about Gatwick and all those other situations. So it gives you kind of a basis to know how to respond when you write in your response. And secondly, I would encourage everybody to please respond to the rule. And like we talked about, make it reasonable, make it well thought out. And then also consider writing to your senators and your representative in Congress. I just think that's the only chance we stand to maybe stop this thing before it gets too far out of hand.
I have to echo just about everything that Marcus said here. I think this is something we can't be an ostrich and stick our head in the sand on this one. All right, this is too much to us. And and as a side note to this too, this affects people in another hobby that I used to be in, the RC model plane hobby. Okay, because the American Modelers Association, I think it's called, the AMA, they're the ones that are going to have these areas to be able to fly in, and it's going to infringe on all those guys. And there's a great group. There's a place right by where I live here. They're fantastic people. They're great. You think we spend a lot of money on drones? You ought to see how much some of those planes cost. It's insane. Okay.
Yeah.
But just to kind of echo also what Marcus said, all right, you're going to need to come up with something, write it up, put it on a Word doc before you cut and paste it and put it in there, and think about what you're saying. It's so important. This is something you just can't, say, and I've read a few already, like I'm an FAA pilot and I think you need to completely rewrite the rules. Okay. Part 107 pilot. That's not going to cut it. You need to be specific with things. Okay. You don't have to get too specific, but just say, I think we can do this, and I think we can do that better, and I think we should do this, and I don't think this is going to work, and just get specific with this. Okay, don't hit it at 10,000 foot level. Hit it at 100-foot level. Okay, because if people are going to look at these, people are going to read these. Okay, and I think it's important, and definitely. Don't be vulgar, don't be graphic, don't be flippant about your comments, make them meaningful when you go out there. This is a chance. How many, say what you will about our country, some other countries, we wouldn't even had a chance. Okay. They'd have just said, this is what we're doing, like it or leave it. Okay. We're having a chance to voice our opinion. So please go ahead and do that. I can't emphasize that enough. I'll make sure links will be on my pages and all my groups for everybody. Okay. Because if you live here in the United States, you owe it to yourself to comment on this. Okay. All right. Now we're done with this. We're done. It's like we're wrapping up 2019 here because, I want to close the show here because I know people have plans for New Year's. I know both Marcus and I have the same kind of plans. We're going to be at home with our wives like we do. I don't know if Marcus and his wife do it every year, but.
So in Idaho, what we do is this is no joke. I'm not joking. They literally have a giant potato that they drop downtown.
Really?
Right. A giant potato.
All right. Okay. Here in Florida, okay, we have at every street corner here in the state of Florida right now, we have fireworks available for sale. Okay. Every street corner. And I hear them going off already. And it's not even 8 o'clock Eastern time. Okay. This is where we're at. Marcus, 2019, we had a great year here. In spite of the lack of drones, okay, there was still a lot that we talked about this year. A few thoughts about 2019 before we wrap it up tonight.
Well, there's a ton of drones coming out. The Zino 2, the Evo 2, with the rumors about the Mavic 3, the rumors about the successor to the Mavic Air, and who knows what others. I'm sure the FEMI X8 SE has been around for over a year, so you can be willing to bet that FEMI's probably got something in the coming on too. So that kind of stuff is excited. Unfortunately, we kind of have this black cloud of this rule over it that's going to affect, our purchases, or at least personally, I can say it'll affect my purchases. But it's still a ways off. Let's focus on having fun and flying our drones and doing what we always do, because as my friend Bill says, it's always a great day to fly.
And it is, Marcus. It really is a great day to fly. Now, before I get into everything, I want to personally thank both Mr. Marcus Crawford and Mr. Ron Braun for their invaluable assistance, their expertise, and their friendship. They're great friends to me. And I count it a privilege and an honor. My number one privilege and honor is being your friends. Okay. You guys are, Ron and Marcus are good, what my parents would call good people. Okay. Down to earth. You can't ask for better. Okay. And I am very fortunate and very blessed to have both Ron and Marcus on the show. And I know, I know Ron would thank me for that. And, that goes to you as well, Marcus.
Thank you very much, Bill. I really appreciate that. And right back at you.
Okay. 2019, we didn't see a lot drone wise. I mean, we have, while we didn't see a lot, okay, and while it doesn't weigh a lot, okay, it really is a lot. All right. Now we also had the smart controller come out, which I thought was kind of an instrumental accessory from DJI this year. We had a lot of other things come out. We had the Osmo Action come out. We had RoboMaster come out. We had the DJI digital FPV come out. There was a lot of things. There was commercial drones that came out from DJI. But, like Marcus said, 2020 is starting off with a bang, because as of tomorrow, who knows if GearBest is going to be sending us an email saying that our Zino 2s have been shipped. Okay. Because it very well could. Now, I read somebody in another country has already said he's got a shipping notice already for his Zino 2. So
interesting.
Hold on to your hats, because this is, and I got to say this. Okay. I got to thank Ron and Marcus for tuning me into Zino and also the Zino 2 and reading through it. And I said, this is a no-brainer. Okay. This is an absolute total no-brainer, because I know the dedication and the passion both Ron and Marcus have had for the Zino. That's how they started their channel. And, that's gotten me on board, not only with their channel, but with the Zino, and seeing what kind of a drone that is. And also the FEMI X8 as well too. Those are, I'll call them similar in abilities and capabilities and price and everything. So, that's a whole segment of drones that we're going to be looking at next year on my channel here, and I know Marcus is going to try to hone in on those as well too. These are great drones. Okay. We got the sky's the limit. The Mavic 3, successor to the Mavic Air, coming up. You know, our good friend Rick Smith says a Phantom 5 is coming. I don't know about that.
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. And we're going to have a lot of great guests lined up. We had some great people on this year, and I'm going to try to, and I've already gotten several in the works, and I'm working on that. As soon as I get some confirmations, until I get these confirmations, I'm not going to go ahead and release this out. But I want to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning in. We were live, I think, I'll say 50, every week we had a live show this year. I think that's incredible. And you're watching and you're supporting and you're liking makes a world of difference, because it's not only liking it for me, it's liking it for Ron, it's liking it for Marcus, and and their contributions to the channel. And when you do that, also go out there and like and subscribe and watch their videos, because they put a lot of effort into them. Okay. And they put out quality videos. You can see the incredible growth that both Ron and Marcus had this year. That didn't happen by luck or by happenstance. Okay. It happened by a lot of effort. Okay. And I know Marcus and I know Ron, and they put a lot of effort into their channels. So please do go out there and patronize those. Lastly here. Okay. Happy New Year's to everybody. All right. I can't emphasize enough, enjoy yourself responsibly. And if you've had too much to drink, either get a cab or stay put. Okay. I can't emphasize that enough. I've personally known people whose lives were ended by a drunk driver, and you don't want to be on either end of that. So, please have fun, but be responsible tonight. I want to see all you guys back here next week when we kick off season 3. Okay. And you guys got to see the new banner, because I changed the color of the banner. So we're changing things up just a little bit here. So, and the other thing is, I want to thank everybody for participating in the contest the other night. All the winners have gotten me their emails, so your prizes will be on their way to you shortly. I will get those in the mail. I want to thank everybody for that. Marcus, thank you so much. Appreciate everything you do. And as always, everyone, it's a great day to fly. Take care, everybody, and Happy New Year's.